several concepts come to mind. Firstly, humanity, justice, equity, and interconnectedness. I mean, many other things too, but this is what comes to mind. And in terms of humanity, faith-based organizations have, as the Archbishop Julio had said in one of our side events, when we were talking about this, have a ministry of presence. So in other words, we are present there with communities, and we understand what's happening in communities and the needs of communities. And I think the essence of the advocacy really is to put humanity at the heart of decision making, rather than the numbers, rather than the economics, and so on, and even not just the science. It has to be humanity at the heart. Otherwise, you lose sight of, what really is happening within the environmental crisis. Justice and equity. As you know, this is known as the COP of finance. And when it comes to finance, countries do tend to, let's be polite and say, meander a little bit in their deliberations. Because basically, for there to be justice, the global north, people in the global north need to undergo a huge change in their lifestyle. Now, we, as just speaking from the Brahma Kumaris, but of course many faith groups, we do advocate a simple lifestyle, a less materialistic lifestyle, and vegetarian and vegan lifestyle. And, in order to be able to have justice, there needs to be equal respect for the sanctity of all life. So not just human beings, but the whole of creation, but also not just the global north, the global south. Every single living being, every single human being has equal sacredness and is equally precious to God. So I think this is the essence of what the faith-based organizations wish to convey, and we want to more and more have a voice, and we'd love that voice to be really directly in the negotiations, because this is a dimension that's definitely missing.
I find that the faith-based organizations are developing very beautifully over the years, because we have to work together. No one will listen to a single religion on its own. They will only listen if we are in solidarity together. So you're talking about humanity at heart. Why is humanity not at heart anymore, Josianne? You talked about the cause.
Yes. Well, I think humanity as a collective idea of us being one family, unfortunately, seems to escape a lot of the discussions. It becomes a very individualistic kind of approach, one state, one party, one interest, and it becomes quite self-centered in the way that the negotiations are happening, unfortunately. And the concept of humanity is not just that human beings should be at the center, but humanity in the broader sense of all of us together. That one group cannot advance if everybody is not together. That is a false idea that some might succeed and others too bad. That's not going to work. We all have to get there together. And this means indeed that some will have to stand back a moment and let others pass. And this is very difficult for some who have been privileged forever and who can't even conceive of the idea that they might need to step back or step down or change their culture a little bit, or they don't recognize the harm that was done to be in the position of privilege they're in. They don't understand it. And that truth needs to be faced. And I think that the faith organizations can help. Definitely. Can help to bring that truth. And it's not a blaming game. It's a situation of responsibility, of acknowledgement, of recognizing each other. And there's healing through that if we recognize it for everybody.
Talking about healing, you are a lawyer and Secretary General of CIDSE, but you're also a mother. You have 3 kids.
Yes.
And you are engaged in working with youth and children. And I know you're very passionate about it. But as a mother and as a person of faith, how do you address the growing anxiety in the young people today? We meet it everywhere. And we have Climate Psychology Alliance. We have many support organizations to deal with climate anxiety in young people.
Yes, it's real.
Yeah.
And it's not just for young people. We feel it too. I think what's intense about young people is that they're living through things for the first time, every time. And they don't have the experience of how to have faced it in the past or how to have faced something similar. They need to learn to manage these emotions and the anger, not just anxiety, the anger and the grief. There's enormous sadness as well in the world. And these are very intense emotions to face. So one thing that I try to do, I mean, as a mother, you look at children and you don't want them to suffer, but you cannot prevent it. You can only accompany them. You can only be with them. You can only help them to find words, to find ways to process what they are feeling, because I don't want them to go numb. If they're sad and they're angry, it's because they care. And I want to nurture that. But I also want them to not feel disempowered, as though they have no way to face this. And that's the scarier emotion, powerlessness. So we try to find ways in which we can have actions where we feel somewhat empowered. The other element is not to feel alone. We're not alone. We're actually the majority who feel this way.
Very powerful. To be with someone, just be with someone and accompany them in their fear and grief. And they are not alone.
And there are good stories. There are people who are extremely inspiring and courageous. And so sometimes it's about also shifting your perspective. It might seem terrifying from where you're sitting, but if you broaden your view and you see all the work being done by others, you can take courage. So this is part of the daily work, but I have to do it for myself as well.
Because that brings me to the next question. I had a personal question to Maureen, actually, because we talk about climate anxiety in youth, but as you said, adults do also have it. So, Maureen, do you feel anxious about the future sometimes? Do you get angry or full of grief looking at the world and the suffering? And if you do, how do you deal with it?
If I really think of the very big picture, I have the faith that God has a plan and that something better is going to happen and come out of this. I think where I feel a little anxious is thinking, how do we get through for people to understand what needs to be done to get to that point? But then you have to step back again and say, well, if God has a plan, you do your utmost that you can in your activism, and then God's going to take care of the rest. But that takes a lot of faith and a lot of handing over. But you're right, I do feel, there's, excuse me, I think we've all seen the protest that is happening in the corridor between the zones. And today I took a video, I put it on a WhatsApp group, and I went from beginning to end, and I thought, I want everyone's faces on this video because they deserve to be seen. And of course, a lot of people are videoing, but I felt, I want others to see this, I want to spread this. And, so seeing the grief, actually, or the sadness on their faces, that does impact me to some extent. And again, I have to say to myself, in terms of my own spiritual practice, that I have to remind myself, what is it that they need, or humanity needs at this point? They don't need more grief. They don't need my grief. They need me to be in a state of peace, in a state of courage, in a state of faith, not in a state of hopelessness or despair. and they need me and all of us as people of faith to create an atmosphere where there's a feeling of possibility and there is a feeling of hope, and so we have to keep that atmosphere of spiritual upliftment. And we have these little blessing cards that we give out, and time and again you give it to someone, the way their face lights up just on reading it, a little something of upliftment, and this is very key. So on the one hand you feel you want to just take everyone in your arms almost, but at the same time have to be aware of what the real responsibility as a person of faith is.
So you remember God's plan and you remind yourself you have to serve, and then you keep going. And
definitely. Yeah.
So staying on this topic, Josianne, you are facing a lot of information on injustice, and you see how the corporate powers take over. And working as a human rights lawyer, you also face a lot of inequality and pain and grief and anger. And how do you deal with it? And does prayer help you? And if yes, how?
Yes. I think we overlook it sometimes in our very busy lives, and it's so important to make the space, to create the silence, because that noise, that pollution in our hearts and in our heads has to be cleansed every so often. And the prayer is a practice of cleansing, of silence, of recentering. And I have different ways, because there are moments where I need quiet, just silence. There are moments where I need to read. I need other people's words. I need other ideas to inspire me, to change the words that are in my head, to give me other more beautiful ideas to hang on to. And then sometimes I need to be with others.
Yeah.
And so this is when spiritual gatherings are what I need, and singing in particular, and joy, because the beauty is what brings us back. And we can never forget the beauty, and that helps you to practice gratitude, because you see so much beauty. And that's the prayer that heals me, and I have to practice it regularly. I sometimes forget. The good thing is community reminds you, and you need helpers. You need people to say, you're tired, you need a break. We don't all need to be strong at the same time. We can support each other.
Beautiful.
Staying at this topic, I thought we could do a prayer now.
Yes.
I've asked Josianne to find a prayer for us, and we can do it together.
I will take an excerpt from the Canticle of St. Francis of Assisi.
How beautiful.
Be praised, my Lord, for Sister Moon, and for the stars, which you have set shining and lovely in the heavens. Be praised, my Lord, for our brothers wind and air, and every kind of weather by which you, Lord, uphold life in all your creatures. Be praised, my Lord, for Sister Water, who is very useful to us, and humble, and precious, and pure. Be praised, my Lord, for Brother Fire, through whom you give us light in the darkness. He is bright and lively and strong. Be praised, my Lord, for Sister Earth, our Mother, who nourishes us and sustains us, bringing forth fruits and vegetables of many kinds and flowers of many colors.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. We are coming towards the end, but as it is Saturday evening today and the first week has finished in COP, and I know you're leaving us tomorrow morning, yes. You have a flight going back. Just shortly from both of you, what has been your experience of COP so far? We talked about it before you came down. You shared some very essential observations. Yes,
I feel that there's a great holding back. I feel that there's not a going forward, and there's not a sharing and what can I offer and what can I bring and how can I advance the discussions. It's more what can I protect and what can I save for myself. So there's a selfish rather than a communal approach to these conversations that I've been seeing, and this this saddens me and frustrates me. But I know that this happens sometimes in the beginning. There's like a lack of direction. So I'm hoping that somehow a bit of light will poke through and somebody will champion a conversation somewhere that will spark another conversation, and that this might create an opening. It's individual conversion at this point.
Yes.
And that's what we're working on.
Yes.
So we are still here next week, so we keep an eye out,
Yes,
out
please.
for this opening.
For the opening,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So Maureen, you want to share some observation, or we do meditation, or what do you think?
Happy to do a little meditation, maybe.
Yeah, shall we
might
do
be
that?
nice.
Yeah. We do a
Because I think my observation is pretty similar.
Yeah.
And it is touching the heart of someone who will say, hey, what are we doing?
Yeah. Okay. So let's have a meditation also.
Yeah. So I see the world. I see the chaos and the confusion. Yet I have to be the light, the candle in the dark night. The light of my soul has to be ignited so I can spread light and hope. And that light is ignited by God's light and God's love. If I stay connected with the divine, my light remains lit. And from one light, many lights are lit. And the world becomes bright and fresh again. God is creating a new dawn for all of us and all living beings. Thank you.
So this brings us to the end of our conversation. Thanks for the meditation, and a warm thanks to both of you for your contribution. Beautiful. And thanks to our speakers for being with us, and our supporters and patrons and volunteers behind the stage. And please stay with us. We will play a 5-minute video about CIDSE work you can watch. And after that, we will continue our conversation part 2. And we have another guest in the studio about prayer, from prayer to power. And yes, so let's watch the video. Thank you.
Describe the vibe as being very calm, as we're given the opportunity to discuss some quite difficult topics and some quite thought-provoking topics.
It's really full of benevolence. We can really feel that everyone is here for the same reasons. We came here from all different backgrounds, but we can feel that everyone is really nice, that we came for good values.
Everybody has just been so passionate about what we do or what we're trying to do here.
Because all these people from all these countries, when you walk passing them, you always get a smile. When you want to talk to someone, there is always one or even more who want to listen.
I guess the main thing that I've really learned is that you can improve so much just by changing things instead of, you know, trying to keep something the same and slowly improving. There's so much inspiration behind, you know, taking something like Casa Velha in a totally new direction.
It's the way to live, you know, it's a pace of life. It's this way to live simply, to live truly, to reconnect to nature, to reconnect to ourselves also, because in city life, for example, we really have a fast life. And here I really learned to calm down, to look at what really matters.
When we did the walk yesterday, that was very interesting. It was a good opportunity to get to talk to lots of people who also talk about our different experiences and how that has allowed us to see the world in different ways.
It's something Margarita, she's the one who runs Casa Velha, said at the beginning. She said it's one thing to say yes to Casa Velha, to start it, but it's another thing to keep saying yes every day. And I think that's something for many people. Yeah, keep saying yes what you do, and yeah, something I really will take home.
Dear planet.
Dear planets.
Dear planet.
Dear planet, I thought I would let you know that there are people out in the world that hear your cries.
I'm really sorry for all that we have made you live. I'm aware that we are not always good to you.
I'm sorry for all the damage that we've caused and thoughtlessness of our actions for so long.
As I have the chance to talk to you, I want to thank you. And I want to tell you that we're going to try to make it better.
Even if we're not always doing good things, we're trying to improve ourselves. We're really working on it right now, so don't worry.
I will use my abilities to promote the problems going on in the world today, to allow other people to understand what is going on and being able to act accordingly in order to better protect the world and everyone that lives on it.
We're gonna try keep saying yes to you and to us, and we're gonna try to do it step by step. We're gonna start locally and we're gonna do it everywhere.
We respect you and we're trying to do better. Hopefully we can make those changes and protect you.
Welcome to our Climate Wisdom live stream from COP29 Climate Change Conference in Baku, Azerbaijan. We bring together experts from the field of civil society, faith, policy making and science for meaningful conversations in the midst of a world in crisis. And we want to care, to share and to inspire. I'm Sonja Ohlsson and I will be moderating tonight's session on the topic of From Prayer to Power, about spiritual activism. So the theme for tonight is faith. And in the COP29, the faith organizations are building momentum and they are coming together to make their voice heard. In the context of the climate change, the religious and spiritual organizations are called faith-based organization. We call them FBO. And for the 2 years, we have had a faith pavilion. And it's been very, very successful. It's been hosted by the Muslim Council of Elders in cooperation with Interfaith Liaison Committee and UNFCCC. And the delegate from Brahma Kumaris team is coordinating the activities there is Valerian, whom many will know from the faith-based organizations. So a warm welcome to the guests this evening who has come in this Saturday evening, the last day of COP, to be with us in the studio, 2 people of faith. So warm welcome to Kenneth Amoateng. You're director of Abibiman Foundation, and you're also part of the Climate Action Network in West Africa. And we have Maureen Goodman with us. This is your last participation in our Wisdom Studio.
Yes, yes.
So you are the program director in the Brahma Kumaris UK, and you do UN work in Vienna. You work with climate change and interfaith, but most importantly, you practice meditation every day, and you've done for 50 years. Fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you.
Kenneth, you are on the board of directors of Abibiman Foundation, and it states that the mission is to realize sustainable livelihoods, peace, and development in the African countries. Your foundation started in Ghana and has now reached international alliances. And here at COP, the topic of climate justice is becoming more and more important. And the global south and the African continent is mostly affected by climate change, but they have contributed the least to it. So can you share with us how the livelihoods in Ghana are affected, how the African continent is affected by climate change, how it has changed people's livelihood, and also the work you do in Abibiman Foundation?
Thank you very much. My name is Kenneth, as you said. I've worked with climate change and in country, in Ghana, basically engaging the local community, women, children. That is our focus. In terms of peace, because those time Africa and Ghana, we were not having peace. There was war, there was military takeover. But we think that if we can develop, first of all, then we need peace. And also we need justice. Climate change has become the next. There was this HIV/AIDS that was over, and now there is climate change, which is affecting everyone, no matter the color, no matter the culture. Formerly, when we started doing survey, people said it was the curse. And they believe that they have committed some sin and the gods is cursing them, and because of that, they did not get the rain that they were supposed to get. So a lot of people were giving sacrifices to the gods and to other people to help them for the rain to come. And so it became a challenge where we're not getting electricity because our dam, we use the biggest dam, and so there was no rain, and because of that, it was affecting the electricity livelihood of people. Hospitals don't have electricity to do the operation. Farmers were also not receiving rain, getting rain for their crops, so it was a challenge, and so becoming like a crisis. And so we need a solution, and it's always affect the women and children, because some of the time the children need to walk 7 or 5 miles to get water, to bath, put time before they go to school. And some also, they need to go for firewood. So they have snake to bite them, and there was a whole lot. And so we find out that this challenge, it's not ours. It was part of the global development that has affected the local community. because those that live by the coast, the sea have taken away their land and their livelihood. And those in the northern region also, they are not getting rain. And so they are also moving to the south. And so when economic crisis becomes a challenge, I'm putting this as a content that the effect of climate change is very serious. And climate change, the researchers say that part of it is a human attitude. And so if we can change, and then we need our minds, our hearts, our thoughts need to also be changed. Because we have tried a lot of things that we think that can have the solution. But I always say, if we come back to ourselves and ask ourselves, what can I do to solve this problem? We'll be able to resolve it. Selfishness, greedy, that is also part of the effect of climate change. Yes, the scientists are there, and we believe the research perfectly, but we also need to do something about it.
And what do Abibima Foundation do?
Okay, so we then start planting trees in the northern part of the country. We try to also educate, because some of them, because of the river body, they cut the trees, and so they are not getting a lot of water. People also are winning sand from the shore for their livelihood. So we did a research, begin to train the community people. First of all, give them improved cook stove, so that they will not cut some of the trees, but they will use little stuff to cook. Start planting trees, start educating people, their lifestyle. So basically that is what we were doing in the communities and the villages. Try to empower them.
It's very touching to hear stories from the ground, from real life. So thank you for sharing the difficulties. Because here in COP is often very academic. I'm very happy to have you here and to share this with our listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you. And at COP also we see the demonstrations, right? Yeah. People are angry, they are shouting. But some people say that meditation is also some kind of activism. So are you a spiritual activist, Maureen? And what is sacred activism? Do you go out and demonstrate, or what do you do?
Well, yes, I hope I am a spiritual activist, or I shouldn't really be here. I don't go out and demonstrate. Well, not in that way. I have been on marches, but the marches I've been on with different various faith communities have been silent marches for peace. And I felt just the silence has made a very powerful statement. Sacred activism is the concept of speaking out when needed, calling people to account, calling leaders to account, expressing what the situation is, helping people to understand. But why we call it sacred activism, or what the concept is, that it's activism that is not done with anger, but done with love.
Not with anger, but with
love. So it's not an activism that seeks to condemn or seeks to judge, but it's just saying, okay, this is now what we need for humanity. And it's out of the love for humanity that we are saying this. And I've observed that when you are active in that way, on the basis of your inner spiritual resource, if you like, on the basis of faith, then it actually is more productive. Because if you tell something to someone with a lot of anger, then it's very hard for them to listen to you. And in fact, there's a defense mechanism that comes up, it's automatic almost, or they may just get angry back and counteract it. But if you're working with clarity, without fear, with love, then people feel more of a sense of safety and they're more able to listen. And I've experienced that very practically. So sacred activism is about this, and never losing sight of the values that are driving you, the spiritual values that are driving you.
Never losing sight of the spiritual values. Maybe this is also what you talked about before, Kenneth, about this changing heart and mind. I see you nodding. You're recognizing this. I had the fortune to visit Kenneth in your home and visit your church and see the work you're doing in Ghana for some years ago now. And I cherish that visit very much. It stays close to my heart. And I visited your church. It's the Church of the Pentecost in Ghana, and you are a spiritual elder there. And can you share what your church is doing for climate change and how prayer help in this context, dealing with poverty, lack of electricity, no water, etc.?
So in the church, we believe in our Bible, in Genesis, where God told us that we should take care of our planet. It's a responsibility God gives to us. And so for us, we have a 1 month that we use, say, plant a tree, the whole church. Because in Ghana, we have about 70% Christians. And so if we listen to what the leaders say, and research shows that we listen more to our faith leaders, more than our political leaders. And even in statistics shows that Christians give more, even pay more to the church than tax. And so what faith people say really change their mindset. And so we're happy that when Pope was elected, he was elected a Ghanaian person to head the environmental, which is Peter Texan, Archbishop. And so it's a thing that the church and the community believe in that. So if you think that if we want to change the environment, then we also need to begin to change our mind, our hearts, so towards the thing of God. So this is what we believe, that prayer do a lot of things, because it's when you meditate to give you the thoughts, and sometimes people will tell you this is what you are doing, it's wrong, it's not good, but it's very difficult. But when you think and meditate, you find that no, what I've done is not helping the environment, so I need to change, I need to improve on it. And so basically that is what we do, teaching them, telling them the right thing, telling them what they should do, talking to their consciences. And I believe, Gaja, there is a change, because we believe it to begin from the house of God.
So prayer gives you the power to do what you know you have to do and to change yourself. Thanks for sharing. And yesterday evening in the studio, we had a climate consultant who worked with faith-based organizations, and he had some very practical advice to give to the religious communities, spiritual communities, on how to increase their impact in this context. And he also talked about that between the COP conferences we have to really work locally in our own church, in our own meditation center, and not only be active at COP, but in between the COPs is the most important time, actually. So Maureen, maybe you'd like to share what is the Brahma Kumaris in the UK doing, because you're program director of the UK, and also how is the BK community, Brahma Kumaris community in the UK, how are they receiving this environmental message?
Thank you. Yes, we are really over several years been working quite diligently to educate our community and put in place several systems that help our centres be greener. We have a particular training programme called Green Champions, and that happens at least twice a year, and different groups of our BK community students would go through this. And it really has an impact, because when they feel they're championing something, then they, really want to put it out there and make it work. We have several centres. Well, we're all vegetarian, so that really is a big plus to helping the planet. But many of us are totally dairy-free, plant-based diet. And we have several centres, I think at least 6 centres in the UK, who are completely vegan. They don't allow, any other, only plant-based products or cooking. We also hold regular sessions of conversations, of education as to, for example, what a plant-based diet can do. Also about our consciousness and the climate, and this is very important when we mention the power of prayer. It is empowering us, but it's also understanding that as we shift our vibration and we become more spiritual, more filled with God's love, the state of our consciousness has a direct impact on the climate, because even with your own body, the closest physical matter to us. If if I'm feeling good and happy, I feel more healthy. And if so whatever's going on inside has a direct impact on matter, on the rest of the environment, and so on. So we educate about that. But of course, we also hold things for the public regularly, helping people to understand more about the kind of lifestyle that is going to help the planet. We are also looking into solar energy in several of our centres. We have waste management systems. At first, it was a little bit of an uphill struggle because people had to change their habits.
Some resistance in the beginning.
Some resistance, yes. I have to be honest, of course. But then, I was describing yesterday to someone, when we started the recycling of kitchen waste, yes, it started, then a few days later, where's the bin gone? Oh, someone's put it out, bring it back again. A few days later, same thing. But now people understand and accept. It takes a little time, but we're very determined to keep moving with it.
I call it sometimes the feel-good factor, because it happened the same in Copenhagen. When we prepared for COP15 that you came to, we all changed light bulbs and paper and cleaning products because it was what you were supposed to do before the conference. Everyone did it in Denmark, hotels, everyone, conference centers.
Interesting.
And then I thought, after the conference, I will not say anything. I will see what happens. And people continued. So after half a year, 1 year, I asked them, why did you continue? We didn't ever decided to continue. We just decided to do it for the conference. And they said, it feels much better.
Oh,
it's the feel-good factor.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Kenneth, you're also dedicated to create a global community of young people. And I know you shared here in COP, you are doing press conferences more or less every day at COP. And many of them are for young people. And just before coming down, I saw you watching on the phone. Your organization had a press conference with young people. So what advice do you give to young people today as a spiritual elder? Do young people also use prayer, or is it only for our generation? Or
You see, this generation, because of technology, think they don't need prayer.
Yeah, they don't need prayer.
AI and a lot of things, they think. So we are bringing back for them to realize that they need prayer. And if you can change the children, if you can have that conscious within them, that prayer works, and they come back to it, and they begin to move with it. And so we cannot leave them. We need to teach the children, because that is what we have. What world are we living for them? Are we living the world for them yes, technology is good, but now we also need to consciously come back and say, it's time. It's a global call of action. It's time for you also to pray. It's time for you to meditate. It's time for you to do, because it's a responsibility.
Do they listen to that?
Yeah, they listen to us. They listen to us a lot, because practical things works a lot. So you need to get them involved. You just know not to say it as a child, because in everything they can just go to their phone and find out. But how do you get them involved into it? And so practical way of teaching the young people and see that they can bring the change. And I always say the hanging fruit, that's small things that we do. Okay, separation of our rubbish, lifestyle, maybe the way we behave, the way we eat, and all those things. If we can change, sometimes we can walk, not necessary, and we can walk and be thinking. So basically, that's the things that we are also looking at: empowering them, training them, let them know that the future belongs to them, and what world will they also leave for their children. Even as we are hoping that we leave a better world for them, we also let them also think that what world.
Very powerful. Yeah. You want to add anything to that, Maureen?
Well, I was just thinking that it's like drops make an ocean, you know, and all those small things that we do collectively create a force, you know. And yes, we also have our children's classes and so on. And also we educate our international community when we have big meetings from around the world, etc. But I like this concept that the small things that you do can have a big impact. And that's more easy to digest, you know. I can change one step at a time, but I'm moving when I do that. It's lovely, thank you.
So thank you very much for an inspiring conversation and touching stories from African continent. So let's finish with both a prayer and a meditation. Will you start with a prayer for us? Yeah?
Can we pray?
Sorry?
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Jesus, we thank you for your great presence. You taught us that you give this word to us to take care of it. We ask for your grace, for your wisdom, for this generation, and for unborn children. Help us to see through. Help us to go through. Help us to help our generation to live a better and a holy and righteous life. Lord Jesus, we ask for your grace. We ask for your protection. We ask for your blessing on this Mother Earth and the leaders that are leading us. We ask for your wisdom. We ask for your knowledge. We ask for your patience. We ask for your understanding. We ask that you continue to be with us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. And whilst we keep the silence, let's move on to a meditation.
We sit here together in this beautiful, powerful atmosphere of silence. The inner silence, the inner stillness that calms the mind and takes us to the heart of our being. And at the heart of our being is love. Every human soul in this world has love at its essence. This love is our gift from God. It's a divine love, an unconditional love. a healing love, a transformative love. We allow God's love to work on us, to cleanse us, to purify us, and to reach out to our world, to every living being in every corner of our beautiful planet. And we have faith that everything is safe and well in God's hands. Thank you.
So thank you to both of you for a beautiful conversation, very deep, and thanks to our global audience, thanks to our patrons and supporters and volunteers, and especially now thanks to Maureen. You've been with us for 6 evenings in the live stream studio, 12 interviews.
I've enjoyed it, thank you.
You have come up with new answers every evening. It's been fantastic. And Maureen is heading back to London now, and then Sister Gente will be with us next week. Tomorrow is Sunday and the COP conference is closed, and our live stream studio will also have a rest day. So please join us on Monday evening for another session of the Climate Wisdom, and you can find more information on our webpage www.echo.brahmakumaris.org. So thank you very much, and good evening and good night from Baku.